Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a lovely day. Let's talk about SACE results, moderation, scaling, and the ATAR. This will be a series of 3 videos. This one, the first one, gives a general overview of SACE results and then delves into what moderation is. We will see what happens to the grades you achieve in the SACE from the moment you submit your assessment tasks to your teachers until your ATAR is published at the end of the assessment cycle. You probably know by now that in SACE Stage 2, 70% of your Stage 2 grade is achieved through your school assessments, while 30% is achieved through an external assessment. School assessments, or that 70%, are divided into 2 assessment types, Assessment Type 1 and Assessment Type 2. What you need to do for each assessment type depends on the subject you're learning. EAL Assessment Type 1 is an academic literacy study that's worth 30% of your Stage 2 overall grade in EAL. And Assessment Type 2, these are responses to texts that represent 40% of your overall EAL grade. For mathematical methods, AT1 is skills and application tasks, which are mostly exams that worth 50% of your Stage 2 grade in MM. And AT2 is a mathematical investigation that represents 20% of your overall mathematical methods score. Additionally, the percentage for each assessment type is different from subject to subject. It is 40% for AT1 and 30% for AT2 in business innovation, 50% for AT1 and 20% for AT2 in mathematical methods and specialist mathematics and so on. But essentially, all SACE subjects at Stage 2 have their school assessments divided into 2 assessment types, and the weighting is indicated in the subject outline that you can find on the SACE website. As for the last 30% of your overall Stage 2 grade, it comes from an external assessment. The external assessment can be in the form of an external examination in subjects like EAL, physics, economics, maths, and so on. And it can also be in the form of an external assessment for subjects like business innovation and creative arts. External examinations are directly supervised in exam conditions, taken inside an examination room, very well-determined time with invigilators and so on, while external assessments are indirectly supervised that students complete over a few weeks, but both external examination and external assessments are marked by an external marker who is not your subject teacher. So, your school assessments are marked by your teacher and then moderated by expert teachers, while the external assessment is marked externally by an expert teacher who doesn't know who the exam papers belong to or from which school. So, what happens to your results from the moment you complete an assessment task to the moment you get an ATAR? First, your teacher evaluates your school assessments and gives it a grade between A+ and A-. Your assessment is then moderated by an expert teacher who would either approve or adjust the grade given by your school teacher. Your moderated school assessment grades are combined with your external assessment grade to give you a final subject grade. Your final subject grade is then scaled, and we will talk about scaling later in a coming video. And all of your scaled final subject grades or scores are used to calculate a score called the university aggregate, which I will also explain in a future video. Then the university aggregate is ranked, and that ranking is what gives us the Australian tertiary admission rank, famously known as the ATAR. So let's now talk about moderation. The SACE program is delivered in hundreds of schools, and since school assessments play a major role in determining students' overall performance, how can we make sure that an A in a given school is equal to other A's in other schools? This is in a nutshell, why moderation exists. It's not really a process of comparing assessments from different schools, but it is a process where moderators make sure that all grades attributed in the different SACE schools are in accordance with the SACE standards. Now, while The school teacher decides what grade to give to each student. It is the SACE board that decides what is the standard for each grade. The SACE board prepares a document called the Performance Standards, and it is this document that defines what each grade is. The vast majority of grades given by school teachers are approved in moderation. This is because school teachers have access to several training opportunities, both online and offline, where they learn how to mark assessments and how to interpret SACE performance standards that define what each grade is. But there are some times where school teachers' interpretation of the standards can slightly differ from the standard. This is when the SACE moderators make adjustments, either by lowering or increasing the grade. Moderation is, in my opinion, the most important part of this process. Moderation ensures that all grades students achieve are equal to one standard. So moderation makes sure that all Bs in a given subject represent the same performance across all SACE schools where that subject is offered. So, who are the moderators? They are experienced SACE teachers who taught a SACE subject at stage 2 level for several years. Each year, every moderator goes through a selection process and participates in mandatory training. Only after completing the training, the moderators will review the assessment sent by the different school teachers and look for evidence supporting the school teacher's judgment. If the evidence is sufficient, then the moderators will confirm the grades awarded by the school teacher. But if the evidence of learning in the student's assessments does not match the grade awarded by the school teacher, the moderators would make an adjustment to the teacher's grade. And always keep in mind that adjustments can go up or can go down. And every time a moderator recommends an adjustment, the adjustment will be inspected by the subject supervisor before it is final. And this is how we get moderated grades. And it is these moderated grades that will be used to determine your ATAR. In the next video, we will see how these moderated grades are scaled and what scaling is, so stay tuned. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment if you have any questions. Wishing you all a wonderful day.